Good evening, everybody. This is Cinnamon Noir.
And this is the Ramen Shaman.
Welcome back to Ebe, the horror game that anyone can play. Because it's free. I didn't mention that in the first video, but it is.
Fair
Like
enough.
many RPG Maker games.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go past... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, is this like a promotional thing, or...
No, not at all. This is just a labor of love. It's one of the most elaborate free games I've ever seen, actually.
That's reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, if you go past Garry at the beginning, you'll see this stuff, and you won't be able to get past it. But Garry can push it aside. That's curious. So the pictures are of a bride and groom, but the hands are both the hands of the bride. We'll see why in a second. I don't know if you noticed, but these areas all tend to be kind of color-coded. Like that last area we were in was all red. This one is mostly gray. And it just keeps going like this. So here's a little maze with some advice written on some notes. I don't know why that tells you that, because this is not an easy maze to get lost in. So you don't really need the hug the right thing. I mean, it's easy to see where you should go. The hardest thing about this maze, in fact, is getting trapped by these things. And not any kind of navigation. I end up with 2 of them on my tail, which is about the worst situation you can get yourself into. Fortunately, I managed to trick them.
Pac-Man vibe here?
Yeah, it's definitely what it feels like, curiously enough.
That sounds reassuring.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a sucker for punishment, so I go up to read this too. And it just has this silly little question. Do you like mazes? I heard you like mazes, so I put a maze in your maze so you can get lost while you get lost. Gary's just really not into this. He doesn't like eyes on the floor.
I mean...
He wants eyes up front.
It's funny, because I've been playing Bloodborne, and...
That's eyes all over the place.
Grant us eyes to cleanse us of our beastly idiocy.
Yeah. I've mentioned before that the translations to Dark Souls strike me as a little pretentious. And,
A bit.
honestly, a lot of the stuff in the Healing Church and Bloodborne I feel the same way about.
Well, at least they're not misusing, that particular medieval, English dialect.
Oh yeah, it's not bad in that respect at all. It's not archaic.
Also, to be fair, like, Lovecraft himself made pretty extensive use of some semi-pretentious...
Oh, I never said it wasn't authentic to Lovecraft, but I'm not a fan of Lovecraft or his style.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a block-pushing puzzle. Everyone loves those. Gotta have one in every puzzle game.
Ooh.
Oh, there's a magical white snake.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we do not get to ride the snake, as many of you were hoping. But we did get some eye drops in that last room, so let's put it on the eye. And see what happens.
Although it would be kind of funny if there was, like, if there was an Easter egg that was, like, a still from Metal Gear Solid or something.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, so here we have a red glass ball. So now we have a ball, and let's throw it. So in case you were wondering, the clue this is giving you behind the big tree, you cannot find anything there if you search before you find that. You may have noticed earlier I was actually trying to and could not. Oh, so here's a silver ring, which Garry recognizes as a wedding ring, which should get some gears turning in the old noggin. We should go back to the last room. So, do you remember which hand a wedding ring is supposed to go on?
Oh, I think it's the left hand, right?
That is correct. Left hand.
I say that after, you know, do it. But.
Yeah. Left hand on the ring finger. The reason for that is kind of interesting. The ancient Romans actually believed that there was an artery that led from that finger directly to the heart, which is why that's the traditional ring finger.
I remember that.
They called it like the vena amoris or something like that.
I think that might actually. I'm not sure if that's true. Although The one thing is the human circulatory system is generally symmetrical, so...
Yeah, I don't think it actually was true.
But I do remember hearing about that.
By the way, you have the option to give this guy your rose. Obviously, do not do that. He'll eat anything you give him, and if he eats the rose, you die. I do think, by the way, looking back a little bit, that it's kind of cool that after you give her the ring, she throws you the bouquet, like real wives do. You know, that's actually a wedding tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not cool. So this is Guertena, I'm pretty sure. This is a self-portrait. And in the middle one, his eyes watch you, and in the second one, he has no pupils at all.
Ugh.
Oh, and more of this. This was fun.
Interesting.
The Hanged Man. This was actually the painting that Garry was looking at earlier. Not sure if you noticed, but we did see Garry earlier in the gallery, so...
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he's right in front of this. Now we see it for real. So, this guy, the Hanged Man, has letters on his... Sorry, not letters. Numbers on his shirt.
Interesting.
Which has to be useful. I mean, you don't put that in for nothing.
Unless you're really trying to screw with your players.
Yeah, right. No, there is in fact a door around here that requires a numerical code.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to do. There we go. So we put it in just as we saw it on his shirt. 5, 6, 2, 9. Can you guess why this doesn't work? It's because the guy was hanging upside down.
Oh.
In fact, it's the exact reverse. It is 6592.
That's really
Oh, wait,
clever.
sorry. I messed it up. 6295. The thing is that they draw the 2s and the 5s very similarly, like S's, so it's a little hard to tell the difference.
That's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, I like that. It's a little hard to see in this room, but there are 4 little dots on the floor, which you can push that table over. Here's a room I actually never go in. This is a completely optional room, and to get it, you have to enter the number of paintings of women in the room. The trick is that you have to enter ones that are actually paintings, whereas you find out steadily as you go on, more and more of these are not paintings at all, they're monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real number is something like 12. I put in 11 at one point, and it doesn't give it to me, so I think I counted wrong.
Interesting.
The thing is, the more of these rooms you solve, the more paintings come off the wall. It's also possible that they change the solution to it, and it's however many are actually on the wall at the time you enter the code. But that would be getting a little too devious for me. I don't think that's what it is. I was a little confused, though, because I originally thought that was a mandatory room. I remember going in it the last time I played this game. But now I can't even remember what's in there. Go figure. Not the last time I'll miss out on optional content, unfortunately.
Aww.
It happens. Yeah, I'm just still trying to get those paintings off the wall, but I haven't solved enough rooms, so they won't. Oh, a mirror. These things are always safe in horror movies and games. Nothing creepy about mirrors. Oh, that mannequin head is following us around.
Oh, no.
Even more so now. Oh. So, Garry gets really pissed. And if you're smart, you will stop Garry from trying to kick this thing. Because it's not a good idea to mess with Guertena's stuff. He doesn't take that very nicely. I'll just spoil this right now. There is actually a counter that keeps track of what you do in this game. And if you let Garry kick that mannequin, the counter will start to tick up. And when that happens, if you let it get too high, something very bad will happen to Garry.
Ooh.
So don't let that happen. Notice anything interesting about that painting?
Is it her parents?
That's right, that's her mom and dad. Which definitely proves at this point that there's something supernatural going on, even with the paintings. Because Guertena could never have known Eve's mom and dad.
Well, That and, you know, the paintings crawling after you.
Yeah, I'm discounting that part.
Fair enough.
No, I really think this is supposed to be the point when you realize something is not just wrong, but really wrong. Not to spoil anything, but if you've ever seen Coraline, there's a few similarities between that and this.
I enjoyed the movie, and I think you need to read the book.
Oh, we're stuck in here. That's not good. So you may have noticed I moved that bookcase over earlier. There was a very good reason for that, which is that if you don't, things will burst through the window and chase you around. On the other hand, if you manage to push the bookcase in front of the window before this starts, you'll be safe until this happens. And then you can just walk out the back. And now everything's gone to crap out here.
Whew.
Yep, that thing manages to trap me, but we managed to get through this door, which leads to the next area. And safety.
Ugh.
And Guertena is still being a creep.
And crying blood, I think?
Yeah, that's his thing. He's like Le Chiffre from Casino Royale.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Mads Mikkelsen, right?
Oh, I don't know the name of the actor.
Oh.
Anyway, so this is a little too much for Ebe, you know. She's just a little girl. A lot of stress, so she passes out. And here's a little dream she's having. Have to say, not a big fan of the backgrounds in this dream sequence. It's a little bit on the nose for being a dream. Especially with the room looking so angular, it just looks very fake.
Yeah.
It looks like the room is plastered on in front of the background. This one I think works a little better because it uses so much black space that it feels more surreal and less like just a GIF that someone put stuff on top of. So Garry managed to pull us to safety after we passed out. And now we're resting in this room. So, you might think that the best thing to do with Garry is to be completely honest with him. But actually that's not entirely true. The thing is that Garry is stressed out just like you are. And if you say things that stress him out more, even if it's the truth, his little counter ticks up even more. So be careful what you say in this game. It may seem like it's just kind of random stuff, but a lot of the choices you make in this game are meaningful.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And of course, unlike too many games, this doesn't deliberately hammer that point home.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
Kind of the opposite of Telltale games, where your choices kind of don't matter, but the game pretends that they do.
So did you notice that list? Which said things like, no fountain pens, no conversation, and the last one was, no leaving ever. There's a TV tropes page about that kind of thing called Milk, Eggs, Squick. With the idea being like you have a grocery list. Oh.
Bread, eggs, milk, squick.
Okay, whatever. You know what I mean, clearly.
Yes.
You know enough to correct me. Anyway, you can pick up Garry's coat and give it back to him, which will strengthen your bond. Because, you know, this is Persona now. You can also talk to Garry. In fact, you can talk to Garry a lot. I think there are, like, 10 unique conversations at this point. You can go through all of them. I don't, but you can. Yeah, that is strange. I mean, the people in the gallery disappeared even before things started getting weird. They disappeared as soon as Ebe looked at that one big panoramic painting called Something World, which she couldn't figure out the first word. Anyway, I think we're ready to set back out, so let's carry on with the adventure. Adventure may be a bit too lighthearted word for this, but...
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to go back to go into the optional room, but in fact, you can't go there anymore. Garry and Ebe both acknowledge that it's just a little too far gone.
To be fair, you know, like, considering what went down there.
Yeah. Well, we can't see anything through the peephole. Anyway. So, see this? You might call it a maze. It's definitely a trap. Here's where I make my first big flub of the game. So, it is very possible to die in here if you make some stupid decisions, as we'll soon see.
Yeah.
So, here's a diary written by Guertena, where he talks about how he's going to put his spirit into his creations.
Oh dear.
I think maybe that worked a little too well in his case. Anyway, there are 3 buttons in this room. 2 of them will activate the other mannequins that are lying around, which will make things even harder, as you can see.
Oh, joy. Oh, and did you miss the one button that would actually do what you wanted it to do?
That is correct. Not only that, I let myself get trapped in here, from which there is no escape. So, first game over screen.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I'm not going to leave that up for long.
But at
Actual
least it's
editing.
auto-saved. Oh.
Well, no, it didn't autosave, actually. I had to come back up to this point and then splice that in. Yeah, you can laugh. For me, this was traumatic.
Oh wait, so the green button actually activates the blue mannequin.
Yeah.
The blue button.
The game fakes you out. The right one to press is actually the blue button.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty nasty trick, actually, all things considered. So, milk puzzles. Have you heard of these? Apparently that's the name they give them in Japan. They have no picture on them, which means you have to go entirely by the shape of the pieces. Which actually is how I solve a lot of puzzles, even when there is a picture on them, because sometimes I just find that easier. Especially if you're working on, like, the water or the sky. A lot of times the color differences aren't enough for you to tell, so you just go by the shape of the pieces. At least that's been my experience.
One thing I've heard of is, actually that's kind of deliberately hard is cornerless jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. And, like, borderless ones.
Yeah.
Well, most people start jigsaw puzzles by assembling the border, so yeah.
That just seems like it would be kind of ugly.
Oh, it's extremely ugly. But it's meant for a purpose. It's meant to change the way you look at the puzzle. I mean, it is so common to assemble the border first that you have to start thinking in terms of assembling large blocks and connecting them, rather than working from the outside in. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that, because it is a little too easy to get stuck in a rut when you make jigsaw puzzles.
Fair enough.
I've assembled a lot of jigsaw puzzles, because I have an active social life.
I've never really gotten that into them, but...
Really? I remember when I was younger, I used to spend a lot of time in my basement assembling jigsaw puzzles while I would listen to movies on VHS. And the weird thing is, I would listen to these movies over and over again without ever having actually watched them, because I was doing the puzzle.
I use a lot of, like, YouTube videos just for their audio, so I can actually sympathize there. Yeah.
It's like I knew the scripts of these movies backward and forward, but I'd never actually seen them. So this is the puzzle I was talking about earlier. We need to know the name of that earlier painting, which was Abyss of the Deep. The one that started all of this. Oh dear. Well, that seems a little adult, even with the missing words. So, Garry tells us we're a bit young.
Are we going to find Aldrich, Devourer of Gods?
No, I think that was just hentai. It's bad enough.
Although, actually...
Now, that is a creepy painting.
Aldrich's story involves him specifically, like, chasing after a couple of orphans. Or having a couple of orphans escape from
Yuck. Oh. So, Garry uses his lighter to deal with the darkness, forgetting that Guertena, being a painter, really does not like open flames. You know, for one thing, you can burn things with it. But even more importantly, painters use a lot of flammable equipment. So, they wouldn't even like having an open flame anywhere near them. So, now the rules of the gallery just show up on the walls and ceiling. Sorry, walls and floor. So, you're not allowed to have matches or lighters. In fact, the fact that Garry has a lighter might be a big reason why this world seems to hate him more than it hates Ebe. That's just something I picked up while playing this game. Garry seems to be in more trouble. Oh! Speaking of trouble...
Oh, I remember you.
So yeah, here's another person who got lost in here. Very different from Ebe and Garry, you know. Ebe has very plain features, and Garry's hair is kind of a light purple, but could be seen as white, or at least a more realistic color. Whereas Mary looks very American. You know, she's got blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
The Japanese conception of American, I mean. Obviously, most people from almost any country have black hair and black eyes. Sorry, not black eyes. Brown eyes.
That is actually pretty... Black or brown hair and brown eyes is very common.
It's the standard. So yeah, Mary... I don't like Mary very much. I tend to make Ebe be kind of standoffish towards her. Just a, you know, personal thing.
Interesting.
You can do whatever you want, you know. Like I said, there's choices in this game, and you can decide to be very friendly with Mary. And we also find out that she has a rose, just like us. Quite interesting.
Read.
What is that supposed to mean? There's nothing it apparently refers to. It's very confusing. And a painting about jealousy. Also very curious. We'll try to solve these mysteries and more when we come back to Ebe next time. But for now, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.